Now to talk about what we can expect from tonight's debate and the latest on the Democratic fight, we're joined by Washington Post political reporter Philip Bump. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what can we expect tonight at the debate? What will be the biggest issues and battles?
Sure. So we're far enough into this now. We've had enough debates that I think we've probably gone through a lot of the policy issues. We'll talk a little bit about foreign policy, particularly with the Syria deal this week. We'll probably talk about eminent domain. That's a way in which Donald Trump has been hit a lot. But I think really what this is going to be about is it's going to be a fist fight between people trying to take one another out before this key South Carolina primary.
Philip, what does one of the big swings we had in New Hampshire was Rubio seemed to lose momentum because of his last debate performance.
Right.
What, if anything, can he do to regain momentum at this point?
Right. Well, it's going to be tough. I mean, what he needs to do is after the New Hampshire primary, he came out and said, look, this is my fault. I messed up during that debate. He can't do that again. That's the key thing. 2/3 of New Hampshire voters said that the debates were instrumental to how they made their decision. So he just needs to demonstrate that he can handle the pressure. I'm sure his opponents are going to come after him hard to try and get him to lose his focus and stumble again.
We had a few people leave the race this past week. You know, Chris Christie, Jim Gilmore, Carly Fiorina, of course, still pretty crowded up there. How do you see things playing out for those still standing?
Sure. So I think we can safely assume Ben Carson will probably be the next person to go. This is a tough year to make predictions, but I think I feel comfortable with that one. But other than that, it's interesting. John Kasich did very well in New Hampshire. Most people didn't have him on their radar screens prior to New Hampshire. Yeah. You're going to have Kasich is going to try and stick around for the Ohio primary. Rubio and Bush are going to try and stick around for the Florida primary. I think Trump and Cruz are probably in the best position, but this is going to take a while.
This race in South Carolina is very different than New Hampshire. Very different territory.
Correct, yes. I mean, it's sort of a weird blend between Iowa and New Hampshire. Iowa had a lot more conservatives. South Carolina has a lot more conservatives than does New Hampshire. But it's also a very, very religious state. And so going back to the debate question, I think one of the things you're going to see tonight, there's a lot of questions of morality and talking about Trump swearing and things like that, because that's going to be important to voters in the state.
What about on the Democratic side? I mean, will Hillary Clinton's support among non-white voters hold? And how do things look after March 1st?
It's a great question. I think that her support will hold. Bernie Sanders did very well in New Hampshire, but it's a very white state. Once we get to South Carolina, once we get to Nevada's a caucus, so it's a little hard to say. But I think it probably will hold. We're seeing polling suggesting that it will. And I think after March 1st, there's a lot of primaries in the Deep South. There's a strong African-American turnout. In South Carolina, more than half of the vote was black in 2008. I think Hillary Clinton will probably do well, and the tide will start to shift.
How important is it for her to make a strong showing in South Carolina at this point?
It's critical. It's absolutely critical. I mean, it's a state in the same way that Bernie Sanders should have done very well in New Hampshire. Hillary Clinton should do very well in South Carolina. Yeah. He did well there. If she doesn't do well there, it's going to be a warning sign for the campaign. He's been trying to make some inroads in the African-American community. Yeah. And, I mean, are we going to see that probably increase over the next few weeks? Yeah, he has no choice. I mean, we're coming to a slew of states in the Deep South, particularly on that March 1st primary, the SEC primary as they call it. He's going to need to be able to pull away some of that vote. He doesn't need to pull all of it, but he needs to pull enough away to actually be able to win some of those contests.
We keep asking this question, but and we still don't really have an answer yet. At some point, do you think a quote-unquote centrist candidate will actually pull away?
Well, that's the problem on the Republican side, right? In terms of you have Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio and John Kasich, all of whom are fighting. So it's a three-way split. Ted Cruz has a very particular community that he appeals to. But also Donald Trump pulls a lot of that moderate vote because he pulls a lot of all of the vote. And so it's kind of a four-way contest in that regard as well. And all these people are going to be sticking around until Ohio, until Florida. So it's going to take a while. All right, be interesting to watch. Philip Bump, thank you so much. My pleasure. Again, a reminder, CBS News will present the 2-hour Republican presidential debate tonight in Greenville, South Carolina, beginning at 9 Eastern Time. And our 24-hour digital news network, CBSN, will have pre-debate coverage from South Carolina starting at 6 p.m. Eastern.